All right, you're very welcome to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. I'm Raf Diallo. You'll find timestamps for this week's episode on rte.ie/sport, the quickest way via the League of Ireland or international soccer sections, or if you're a viewer, under the YouTube video of every episode on YouTube. As ever, I'll be joined by Shelbourne's Rachel Graham to talk through the key matches and developments in the women's game. But right now, we're going to bring the mood down, and to help me do that, I'm delighted to be joined by Richie, Towell, and Graham Gartland. Lads, how are you?
Oh, good, Raf. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad now. And as I said, I am bringing the mood down, so I apologize in advance because you're going to be put through the emotional ringer for the first few minutes here. And that is obviously off the back of last Tuesday's pretty emphatic performance, and in a bad way, against Armenia. Obviously, the result was a bit tighter. It was 2-1, but the performance itself left a lot to be desired. And there's that sense that the World Cup qualification campaign has basically ended after the first window, albeit there's still a mathematical chance of going through. But there's two games against Portugal to come and a trip to Budapest as well. Richie, I suppose first off, result aside, your thoughts on the performance on and off the ball?
Oh, it was so poor, Raf. I couldn't believe it. Like, you see the way the Hungary game finishes, everything's positive, loads of crosses into the box, getting bodies forward, playing with an energy and an enthusiasm. And it's what we all loved, what we wanted. And you're thinking then when the Armenian game kicks off, do you know what? For the first 2 or 3 minutes, they actually started like that, and you think, right, we're onto something here. And then it's just, I don't know what they've been working on over the last couple of days. Like, the distances between the front to back, so from Ferguson to Nathan Collins, Dara O'Shea, and the lads at the back are massive there. Then you have the likes of Josh Cullen and Taylor, who doesn't know if they're going to press, they don't know if they're going to sit, and the gaps are so big that they just get played through every single time. I couldn't believe what I was watching. No enthusiasm, nobody goes and puts a tackle in. Go and smash somebody. Do you know what I mean? Go and set a tempo, set a marker down. Like, we're here to play. I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was really poor.
Yeah, in terms of the distances, I know this is something, Graham, you've talked about in terms of other teams and other performances and the importance of keeping those. What did you make of those defensively once the game started to stretch as the first half wore on? Obviously, there was the Dara O'Shea slip. That was one big warning sign. And then later on, then the penalty is given away, and then the performance sort of falls apart from there.
It made the players look leggy and unfit, and they're not, because we've seen them play in the Premiership at the weekend, and they're not. But it made them look that way because they can't cover the distances across the pitch, whether that's vertically or horizontally, which is across the way. So they just couldn't cover the distances, and then it made them look like, we're not mobile and we can't get around the pitch. And the game became stretched, and it became a 50-50 game. And normally, when you're the better team with the better players, the more stretched the game is, you're thinking, right, this will suit us. We've better talent. But it was Armenia that grew into the game and got that confidence to go, these can't stay with us. So again, there has to be that in-game management to go, lads, this game's a bit too stretched and it's not working out the way we want it. I know we're 1-0 down. Let's not panic. Let's go into the game, and it'll only take one moment to score a goal, and then that will switch the momentum. And as soon as the momentum went with Armenia, we just couldn't wrestle it back because it looked like we panicked a little bit. And that panic sets in. It's like there's a desperation. But we should be beating Armenia. Yeah, we know, but you have to have a plan on how to do it. You can't just be that, like this, like that embarrassment kicks in or that need, but you can't deviate from what is going to get you there. And you can't just throw all these ideas out the window to go, no, it was a desperation to win the game, and we're just going for it. We lose all our shape and we lose all our reason and how to deal with a football match. And that, to me, what it looked like, there was that panic set in, and then the distance became too big, and then they exploited it. And that's the worry, is that if normally you go toe to toe with a team, you're the one that has the quality to hurt them, and you're thinking, right, great, let's have a shootout and we'll be the ones on top. They when it became a 50-50 game, they looked stronger. There's a couple of things I was unsure of. They swapped Collins and O'Shea in terms of what positions they played. Left-sided centre-back. Again, Collins had played left-sided centre-back with against Hungary, and I was thinking, why are you swapping them again? That threw me off a little bit, because normally your centre-backs, you don't change them. So they ended up being one personnel change in the back five from the Hungary game, but three positional changes in it, because Ryan Manning comes in at left back, and then Collins and O'Shea switch, and they didn't look connected at all. And like you said, then the distance is the sign of a good defensive team, is the distance between the centre forward and the centre back, and that became too stretched, and we weren't able to go. I've no problem if it becomes stretched and we're in the ascendancy and we're the better team and we're playing with all this momentum. But when it goes against you and they're running through you and they're running over you and they're running around you, something has to change. And it takes that little thing of, lads, just sit in for 2 seconds, take our medicine here, let's keep them in front of us. And if we need to go out and jump out and make tackles and let them know we're in the game, we can do that, but we're doing it from a base. And then it became where you went in ones and twos, and when you go in ones and twos, you just get picked off. And I think you can fix it in terms of how we fix is be a little bit more relaxed. Don't panic when we go a goal down. We've gone a goal down the last nine of his games, so I don't see why a panic should set in. And if, especially after the Hungary game where we've come from behind to rescue a point, we didn't need to panic in the game, but they just grew in confidence. And again, we need to go there and get wins, but without losing all rhyme or reason in how we do it.
Yeah, and obviously Hamer Hallgrimsson later on, when he was speaking to Tony O'Donoghue, he did try to take responsibility for it and said he was going to take the blame, deflecting it away from the players. Now, in terms of his future, obviously his contract runs out at the end of this campaign. So whether it's a parting of ways or a renewal, that will be decided in November or beyond. Yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah,
rightly so, he should take the blame as well. But firstly, he picked the wrong team to start, and then the tactics were absolutely terrible. They were. So I know he's come out and he's taken the blame, but he should take the blame. Now I know when you pick a starting 11 to go out onto the pitch, you expect them to go out and do their job, and the boys didn't do their job. It was clear for everyone to see. But you could see, I don't even know what the tactics were. I don't know whether the tactics was to press high or whether the tactics was to sit off in a low block. I genuinely don't know what we're doing still. So I know he's come out and said he's going to take responsibility, but it's clear and obvious that he should.
Yeah, and in terms of his immediate future, because there was immediate scrutiny straight away, and was something that the manager himself acknowledged. David Carell, the FAI CEO, addressed that with Tony O'Donoghue in an interview last week, and full interview is on YouTube, but this is just a clip where he's discussing Hamer Hallgrimsson's immediate future and where the FAI stand on that.
It didn't work out for us on the night. That is football. But the reality is we're only 2 games into a 6-game campaign. I'm not naive. That is a massive stumbling block for us, and it will make our campaign significantly harder to qualify. But as much as you can have a loss one day, you can have a win the next day, and we've got 4 games left to go, and we're fully supportive of Hamer seeing out the campaign, and only at the end of that will we take stock.
So you're giving your backing to the manager for the moment. I mean, there was talk of a new contract for him, perhaps. Will you look at that at the end of this campaign, or do you think that you need to start looking further afield? Because clearly something happened at the game against Armenia in that the players didn't understand the tactics, or they weren't able to play the tactics that the manager had asked of them.
So Hamer has a contract until the end of the campaign. I've spoken with him as you would expect, and we've agreed that at the end of the campaign we'll revisit what the future may hold.
Well, that's the FAI CEO David Carell there with the vote of confidence for Hamer Hallgrimsson. As we said, the contract runs out after the window in November. Now, there are changes at the top of the FAI with the ex-Shamrock Rovers CEO John Martin coming in as the new FAI Director of Football, essentially replacing Mark Cannon, but also Shane Robinson promoted to the role of Technical Director. And Graham, looking at those kind of changes and those people coming in, the in-tray that they have, not just in terms of the senior men's first team, but the wider game, you wouldn't envy them in terms of coming in, the number of changes that would need to be made.
No, I don't. I think that's where myself and Richie are dealing with the game as a game, and how you deal with the top end of it. And the top end is always going to change, where you're going to get different managers come and go. But the infrastructures behind the scenes need to be solid, and they haven't been solid for a long, long time. And it's okay that a different manager at the top end might come in and change things and tweak different way we play. But the structures underneath need to be set in stone, and they need to be worked through constantly, so that there is players at the top that allows a manager to come in and adapt to how he wants to play whether it's a low block, whether it's press high, whether it's on the front foot, whether it's possession based. We need to be producing players that are able to facilitate any type of tactic at the top end of the game, and we're not. And it's a systematic failure in this country from everybody, government, FAI, clubs, throughout the years, that we've let this sort of slip from what it was 20 years ago. And there's loads of different factors in why we've let it slip. We haven't got the structures in place to do it. We haven't got a system in place to do it. We haven't got the facilities. We haven't got the staff. But other countries have invested in all of that. So it's not even that we've stood still and they've just gone here, and they've gone way above us, and it's catch up now. But the one bit of hope you have is a kid born now going into a good system has a good chance of being a footballer as well as someone in Europe, because again the talent will come, but can we get it right? Full faith in Shane. I work closely with Shane on a lot of stuff, and Shane has an altruistic view of Irish football, in that he's always going to put the player first and foremost, and what can we get around the player to make sure that his ability, his drive, his personality comes true. So I have full faith in that, and that's the thing. It's the player has to come first. In order to do that, we need more infrastructure. We need more full-time coaches that are about development, and it's easy to get caught up in anything to win and all that stuff. And I always used to say to when I'm coaching younger players, it's okay that they want to win. That's a big thing in football, is that the kids have to want to win. But as a coach and as the adult in the room, my want can't come above theirs. My need to win as a coach doesn't validate anything in me. And you need to park that and go, right, let's be about development. And the more coaches we have that actually do that, the better it will be. But there's a couple of ways of doing it. Saturation. If we can saturate the country with Astros and coaches, and it goes back to being a real working class sport where people can just turn up on Astros and play football, which happens in Holland. I think that's one way of doing it. The other way is that you just have to put infrastructures and structures in place that allows us to increase our contact hours. But I think I have full faith in what Shane's doing, and if he's allowed to do it and implement it, I think he can turn it. But it needs to turn, and the first turn is the toughest. The first turn is infrastructure, is coaches, and then if you start producing players, then players help produce the next cycle. As long as that investment from the first player goes back in, it doesn't come off the wheel. And so I touched on it about young players at Shamrock Rovers, the benefit of what they got from Gavin. Gavin's investment was reinvested back into the club, and that allowed the club to produce more players because the investment stayed on the wheel. But if that investment comes off the wheel, where for somebody else's transfer fee, and then it goes back towards a first team project, that's not going to work, because that investment has to stay in the structures and in the interest of producing young players.
Yeah, and obviously there isn't necessarily a silver bullet for this, but the upcoming budget in terms of the government, that's something a lot of people have been kind of targeting in terms of getting that money for academies if it does happen. The one thing is getting the money. The next thing is actually how it is properly implemented. Are you kind of confident that is in place? Obviously, the likes of Shamrock Rovers, as you say, there is a system in place, but across the rest of the country, do you feel there is that you would have confidence that it would be used the right way, as in that there is the expertise to actually invest, I suppose, appropriately when it comes to the coaching of the next generation of young talent?
I'm not sure. I think I'm not confident that the government will go to academies and say, here's your money, for loads of different reasons. There's a lot of financially well-off people in charge of some of the clubs in Ireland. So it's hard for the government to say, well, we'll give you money when you're already a multi-millionaire. Why aren't you investing more of your own wealth into this? But you want us as a government to invest other people's tax money into this. And again, them structures need to be in place at each club to go in and say, any revenue that's made from your academy has to be reinvested into the academy. And that's where you have to separate that from your first team. You just have to. And And no matter what happens, oh, well, we want a bit of that. He played in our first team and we sold him. Yeah, you're entitled to a little bit of it, but 80% of it has to be reinvested into the academies. And when you look at what the audit from Belgium, the crowd from Belgium said was that the first team are still having too much of a say in academy structures, and that's the bit that has to be separated. That you go, yeah, there might be a style of play that you implement down the way, but in terms of business-wise and a separate entity, the first team can never put its hand into the academy and say we're gonna take money from this and invest it into the first team. That's just can't be done. I had a good relationship with one of the biggest academies in Europe, and when I asked him that question of if your first team performance ever suffers, does it affect the academy? And he laughed at me like it was the worst question I've ever asked him. Like, he just literally looked at me like, "Are you for real? This Air Academy is the shining light for this club, and under no circumstances will our budget ever come down because of the first team's performance." And to me, that's where we need to get it. We need to get to is that we're academy first, and we produce these players to come through, and that's tough. And it's look, in the grand scheme of things, you produce unbelievable players, and they help you be successful at the top end. And Richie, I'll tell you this. Young players take time to come in, they take time to develop, they take time to become really good players at the top end of the pitch. So sometimes fans might think, why are you playing that kid? We want to win the game. But that's the little bit that I know everybody's chasing success, but success for us as a country might be that young players play, which means you mightn't win the league every year. But do you know what? These kids are coming through and they're making our national team better. And people might say, well, it's not up to the clubs in Ireland to do that. Well, it is now. It is now due to Brexit, and we have to maybe step up and do it.
Yeah, and even Richie, like in terms of the young players getting an opportunity, when you look around the League of Ireland, there are a number of like really young teenagers, even at Shamrock Rovers. Some of them you would have kind of seen up close. There is, like at least at Rovers, there is that emphasis. Even I suppose at Pats as well. We look at Mason Melia, who's a generational talent. It is happening in certain places. Cork City as well, with young O'Sullivan as well prior to his injury.
Yeah, see with the Brexit thing after happening, we need to make that a positive for us, that we actually get to keep our best young players in Ireland, in the league. So give them that stage to go and show what they can do, and it will increase their value. You see the likes of Mason Melia, who went for nearly €2 million. If he had went a couple of years previously, I don't think he probably would have reached them sort of figures. And then we're talking about the reinvestment. You see with a player like Mason, like, what are St. Patrick's Athletic going to do? Are they going to really heavily invest that back into the first team? Because realistically, they're not going to win the league this year. Are they going to say, okay, we're going to have an even bigger goal at winning the league, so we're going to invest some of that money into the first team? Or should we put that into the academy to help grow that and create another 4 or 5 Mason Melias? That's the conundrum where we're kind of at. As I said, we are very lucky that we do get to keep these players, because realistically, the likes of Victor Oshin-Vuna, Michael Noonan, Mason Melia, they would have all been gone at 15, 16 years of age. So we actually have the opportunity now to keep them. So go and play them. If it means that you don't win every single game, so be it. For the good of Irish football, it will bring this country on so much more, it will, than you playing a 34, 35-year-old just to go and get the job done. Now, I know when you go and look at the finances, like that's at stake for the likes of Shelbourne and a Shamrock Rovers, where they're playing in European football, and you think, right, maybe I will go with a little bit of experience here to get to the group stages. Okay, that's fair enough. I completely understand that. At the end of the day, it is a business as well. But then when you get to the group stages, go and play these players. You see, Michael Noonan became the youngest ever goal scorer in Europa League conference football. That's absolutely incredible. It is. It just raises his profile. It raises Shamrock Rovers' profile, and it raises Irish football's profile. So look, as I said, we do have an opportunity with Brexit to go and give our young players the opportunity to shine on a big stage. So we need to really grab it and do it, because otherwise we're just going to stay in the same predicament we've been in for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and another point, Richie, just obviously your area of expertise is in central midfield. Do you feel there's enough opportunities for young central midfielders? I mean, teenagers, like we look at Mason Melia, for example, and Michael Noonan, they're forward players. the weakness in the Irish team at the moment is central midfield. We don't seem to have a lot of sort of that kind of central playmaker coming through, one that gets on the ball, of a Luka Modric type, etc. We don't seem to produce a lot of those. Do you feel there is enough emphasis on that in terms of giving opportunities?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it, Raf? So you look at centre half and centre midfield, two positions that are vitally, vitally important for any football team. And some managers don't want to put a young kid in there, especially at centre half or centre midfield, where if they make a mistake, it can really lead to a goal. Where you look at the players that you've mentioned, the likes of Victor Osimhen, Michael Noonan, Mason Melia, they're more so at the top end of the pitch that if they do make a mistake, no problem at all. You have another minimum 7, 8, 9 players behind the ball that can go and get it back. So it's just, we probably need the managers over here that are like, do you know what? Let's go and trust these young kids. You can even see up at Shamrock Rovers, Michael Noonan doesn't start every game. Victor Osimhen hasn't barely kicked the football for Shamrock Rovers this year, which is crazy. Anytime I've seen Victor playing, he's been incredible. And I'm thinking, give the kid a game. Like everybody can see he can do it. He goes and plays for Ireland, he's incredible. Michael Noonan goes and plays for Ireland at 21's incredible again. Go and play these boys. But when it comes to the big games against Santa Clara, Stephen Badley goes and picks Rory Gaffney, who's 36 years of age, because, as I said, at the end of the day, it's a business. And if they don't get the results, and from the top, they're looking down thinking, well, why are you playing a kid in there when we have the experience of lads who have been there and done it?
Yeah, now there's actually one Irish player that will be not qualified yet, but could be at the World Cup. If we're not going to be there, Pico Lopes will be flying the flag for us for Cap Verde. Now they're on the verge of qualifying. I think they're 4 points clear of Cameroon with 6 to play for, so it's looking good for him. And I suppose you've kind of been watching that as a former teammate of his from far ever since he got that. First, he got that, I suppose, got contacted by Cap Verde, then called up. It must be some sort of an adventure even to witness it close up.
Incredible, honestly. And you know what, Raf? I'm sure Graham will back me up here. It couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Honestly, if there's a role model playing in the League of Ireland now for any young kid to look up to, it's Roberto Lopes. Honestly, first went into the training ground, always trains incredibly hard, always puts his team first, like that, goes and travels over to Africa, hours and hours on an aeroplane, plays 90 minutes, comes straight back, always available, always fit. Honestly, you're talking about a modern professional footballer. Roberto Lopes is that, and a good guy into the bargain, a great leader. But he wouldn't have got picked for the Republic of Ireland. And why? Because he's playing at Shamrock Rovers. It's as simple as that. You can see, like, I've been calling for Josh Hoonan to play. I think Josh can play for Ireland tomorrow, no problem at all. He has all the attributes. But again, he's playing for Shamrock Rovers, so he won't get playing, and that's just a fact. It is. As I said, Roberto. I've seen him playing against Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, and he's been incredible in every single game. But yeah, again, if he got the opportunity, if he had the opportunity to play for Ireland, they wouldn't have picked him. So yeah, maybe it's something that we need to look at as well over here. Look, the lads that are playing the League of Ireland can play at that level, no problem at all.
Yeah, and given a lot of the Armenian players, the bulk of them are playing in their own league, which is ranked below the League of Ireland as well. But I suppose, Graham, as Richie just said, you know Pico quite well, so it's a great story if it does happen that Cap Verde actually get to the World Cup for the first time, and he's part of that journey.
Yeah, look, I echo what you said. I've known Pico a long time. Model professional, brilliant, the way he should be. Let's be honest about it. He's doing exactly what he should be doing as a professional footballer. He's getting the most out of himself. And that's exactly, he's getting the most out of his ability as well. Physically, he's an animal. You don't realise until you're actually pitch side and you're watching him how vocal he is on the pitch, like in a great way. Hey, like, and that's what we're talking about.
When you're him, Graham, and he's barking at you to come back and track runners.
yeah, but you needed that. But that thing of, like, we're talking about the Ireland game, and I'm not saying that, well, he does it, but it's that vocality of, like, fixing what's in front of you and that in-game management, and he's massive at it, like, and he's always encouraging to the younger players, and he helps them, and he say, look, this is how you conduct yourself, this is how you carry yourself, and that's massive, because it's the only way you learn as a young player, because you might come in with certain habits, and an older player goes, look, Kerry has, this is how you do it. Look, make sure you're on this. Make sure help out with that, and all these things. And he gets his just rewards because everybody wants him to do well. There's not many people in the league that go, he's the captain of Shamrock Rovers, most successful club in the country. They're on course to, looks like, to do a double. They're playing in the group stages, and nobody begrudges him it. You know, and that's a massive thing, like, because most other people would be, look at them, Rovers lads think that this, think that. Not with Pico Lopes, you know, and he's one of the good guys, and sometimes good things happen to good people in football.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, he did score his penalty in the shootout as well in the FAI Cup quarter-final, which was the live TV game on. Yeah, just about. It's one of those things. It's a good penalty when it goes in. If it doesn't, obviously, it's not. But he did put it into the back of the net. So that was after a 1-1 draw, the TV game on RTÉ2 and the RTÉ Player on Friday night up at Sullivan and Lamb Park against Verde United, and Shamrock Rovers going on to win 5-4 on penalties. The other game that night, or the other games, I should say, that night, Cork City winning 3-0 at Finn Harps to get to the semi-final. And then an incredible story we'll talk about a little bit later on. Kerry beating Sligo Rovers 4-3, but the incredible nature of it is the circumstances in the game of how that happened in extra time. And then St. Pat's yesterday, the second TV game on RT2 and the RTÉ Player, which was St. Pat's beating Galway United 3-1. So that is setting up the semi-final lineup. The draw was done by Stuart Byrne and Alan Cawley right after that Pat's Galway game, and Shamrock Rovers will play Kerry at Tallaght Stadium in one of the semi-finals, and the other one, Cork City, are hosting St. Pat's. So that's two intriguing games coming up in the semis the first weekend of October. Now, I suppose first on Shamrock Rovers, Richie, the game itself probably owes much to the performance of the goalkeepers, not just McGinty, who obviously came up trumps in the shootout, but also Luke Dennison had a great game as well within the 120.
Yeah, Dennison was brilliant. He was. Because I was actually a little bit fearful for Drogheda after the first 45 minutes. I was watching them playing, and it wasn't their normal performance. We spoke about Ireland's distances. I thought their distances were too big as well. I thought Graham Burke and Danny Manjo, they had a field day in the first half. They were getting on the ball, playing through the lines, and you could see even for the goal, they linked up really well. It's a great finish from Graham Burke. That's the quality he has. But normally Drogheda, they make it a little bit harder. They sit a little bit deeper, and they make it an ugly game. They do. I thought in the first half they made it. It was a little bit expansive. It wasn't. They were kind of getting played through, and I was thinking, oh, this isn't a normal Drogheda performance. And I genuinely thought Rovers were going to go on and win 3 or 4-0. And then look, it's a game of two halves, isn't it, Raf? Drogheda came out and they were a lot better in the second half. And then the goal's a wonder goal, isn't it? I couldn't believe what I was saying, especially for a centre half to do that. So I know we got a great goal in the cup final as well. And you're thinking, oh, here we go. This is going to be it again. As I said, Dennison was amazing in the game, but when you have the quality of McGinty in goal as well, he comes up trumps in the penalty shootout, which was brilliant to see.
Yeah, and Graham, in terms of the way Drogheda played it as well, because I suppose it's credit to Kevin Doherty, they stayed in the game as well. They go 1-0 down, and you could worry for them a little bit, but they seemed to, at times, they pressed really high at times in that first half, and then sometimes they were sitting back. What did you make of it?
I know what you're saying. I know what Richie's saying is like they pressed, but Rovers nearly wanted to press, you know, because they have that extra man in midfield, and then that extra man is Healy, who kept finding the ball. And I thought Davis, like maybe he could have dropped in at times, and sometimes you press, and sometimes there was times when they did press where they nicked it and they had a couple of half chances, and I thought, right, that's when you're just waiting for them little triggers. But other times they were pressing, and I was like, it's not on to go here. And I think second half they got that message of, right, we're going to sit in, but we're going to press off certain things. I think Doyle coming on was a big influence in the game. Farrell coming on gave them a little bit more legs in midfield and allowed them to cover Healy and Burke and Mandroyu. I also feel Rovers were that good in the first half. I thought Rovers were excellent in the first half. It was like I was watching the pitch side. They were moving the ball really well. Mandroyu and Green were just having the run of the pitch. And then what happened was they just dipped a little bit, Rovers, and then it just swung the momentum back to Drogheda. And then they start getting long throws, corners. All of a sudden, this pressure builds. The crowd gets involved. And then when Burke and Mandroyu came off, Rovers would still have the control and extra time, but they were missing that. Them cutting edge players at the top end of the pitch that, right, they can just drop a shoulder and go by it and produce a moment of magic. And that little bit of, I said on Friday night, that little X factor that you need at the top end, that cutting edge, was gone. So the fear factor was gone a little bit from that point of view. And then Drogheda deservedly got their equaliser. And I just thought extra time fizzled out a little bit. I think the drama, the last minute goal, bringing it, just sort of took the air out of both teams. And they seen it through the penalties. I thought Drogheda would have been happier going to penalties considering how well Dennison had done in the Derry game. But McGinty steps up with the two saves from Markey and Jareem were brilliant. Full stretch, got to them. Dennison's save from Noonan is unbelievable. And then when Cleary puts the ball that far over the bar, you're thinking it's Drogheda's day. But it wasn't. And again, the resilience from Rovers come in. Rovers are having an unbelievable season, and they've earned the right to have an unbelievable season, but everything has fell well for them in terms of they played Santa Clara, they got shells in between that game so that they have the weekend off to prepare for it. They then put in another fantastic performance. They then get another weekend off because of the international break. They then roll into the FAI Cup quarter-final. A lot of the times, and Steve Bradley was talking before the game, the season hasn't felt that way. They've been hit with cup games straight after the European game, and they've had to change the team around. That they've been caught in the hop a little bit. This hasn't happened. Everything's lined up perfectly for them. But I also feel that they are the outstanding team in the league. They are performing at levels above every other team, and I put them down as favourites to win the cup, and they're going to win the league. So it could be the most momentous season in Shamrock Rovers history, and considering the history they've had, that's unbelievable. And full credit to the players and the staff because they've been excellent.
Yeah, and let's listen to Stephen Bradley and then Kevin Doherty as well. Both were speaking to Tony O'Donoghue after the game. But first, Stephen Bradley.
Stephen, congratulations. That was a proper cup tie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You have to give credit to Drogheda for that first half. I thought we were excellent. Second half, they were excellent. And they score in the last seconds of the game, take the extra time, penalties. I had everything, to be fair. Decent game, decent cup tie. And look, thankfully we came out on top.
What's your view on penalties? Ed McGinty, the hero for you. Some people say it's a lottery, but it's not really, is it?
No, look, you trust your players to go up and take the penalty, but we also trust Ed. We know he makes saves, he makes big saves. And we said in the little huddle, Ed will make a couple of saves here. And he's come up big for us.
He made a great one in 90 minutes from Keeley, so he had his eye in tonight.
He did. He's grown with each week that's passed, each month that's passed. He's become more comfortable in the jersey, in that position, and he's got real character. He makes big saves. That's why I wanted him here, and he makes us a better team.
Well, I have to say, I think I'm very, very disappointed. I thought we could have had an extra man for most of the game, and that would have made a massive difference. But I don't know. I haven't seen other people that have heard. Plenty of people think, but.
You're referring to the moment in the first half when Mandroyu was given a yellow card and it could have been a red.
Yeah, I think everyone that watched this, it's like, maybe they're biased people that I spoke to, but everyone told me. And again, it's nothing against any Mandroyu, brilliant player. You don't want to see players saying that, but I remember Luke Heaney getting sent off for way less, and you see the couple of bookings that we picked up. But again, probably not a night to be going on about decisions and referees, and it's just the last couple of times against Rovers here, and it is Rovers, and look, sometimes these things do go the way because they're flying high. But I think we probably that should have went for us. But having said that, we went toe to toe with, as I said, by far and away the best team in the country. We're a penalty kick, we're one kick away from going through. But look, we didn't, and as I said, we celebrated the last one. It's a pity, obviously, because the draw really opened up. Then you'd have beaten Derry, you'd have beaten Rovers, and I think we probably could have. But look, fair play to Rovers, they went through and they probably have a good chance of a double now.
Right, so that is Kevin Doherty, Drogheda United manager. Before that, Stephen Bradley. Always enjoy Kevin's interviews after, always very honest. And just actually his point on and what he was referring to, as Tony kind of clarified there, the Danny Mandroy tackle on Conor Kane. I'll just get both of your thoughts on it. First, Richie, do you think that was a red card? Obviously, it's on a counter-attack and he kind of sides the player down, but whether it's a yellow, an orange or a red, that's open to interpretation.
Yeah, when I was at Rotherham, Raf, I got sent off for the exact same tackle I did. Like that, playing against Bristol City away, they were breaking on us, and I thought, well, I'll take them for the team. Went in probably a little bit higher than Danny's one. Ended up getting sent off. Looking at Danny's one, I thought it was a yellow card. Look, it's very cynical. He goes in at speed. So they kind of look at it, and the referees do, how fast they go into the tackle, how high it was, the aggression in it. There's loads of different factors there is. It's one of them. It's really on the borderline. If you got a red card for it, you'd be disappointed. If you got a yellow card for it, you'd be thinking, right, I'm after getting away with one. So it's one of them. It's on the borderline.
You're sitting on the fence as well.
Yeah, I really am. If it was me making the tackle, I'd be thinking, right, yellow card, take it. If it's someone against one of my players, I'm screaming for a red card. That's it. Neil Doyle made the decision to give a yellow. I think it would have ruined the game if it had went down to 10 men. Shamrock Rovers, it wouldn't have ruined the game for Drogheda. It would have probably given them the upper hand to go on and win it. Yeah, look, it's a really, really, it's a tough decision for Neil Doyle. He's in the heat at the moment. He's closest to it, and he makes a decision. Look, I think if it's going against you, you'd be raging, and if it's for you, you'd be delighted. So it's one of them ones.
Yeah, Graham, I know you talked about it on the TV, I think with Alan when you were covering the game, but on reflection now, a couple of days, where do you kind of stand on it?
The fact that, like you said, if your own teammate done it, you'd be thinking I got away with it, and if someone else done it to the opposition, you're thinking that's a red card. It's a red card then. You know what I mean? Like, because we're all biased to what was best for our own team. I agree with Richie. The intent, which the cynicism makes it yellow, but he could have failed by pulling his jersey or clipping his heel, and then it's still a yellow card. The pace that he comes in at, the deciding factor for me that I decided why I think it's a red card was it's from behind. Now, if it was from the side, or he came sliding across horizontally and took him out, and you knew the cynicism was there, you knew the pace was there, but you said, look, he has it, he knows it's coming, all that stuff. It's low. He's gone in from the side. If a centre back done that to a centre forward collecting the ball with his back to goal, it's a red card. So that's why I explained why I thought it was a red card. If that happened to Danny Mandroy going the other way, Rovers would have been looking for a red card. So that's where I try and explain why I think it is, and for me, I think it's a red card. Yeah, I looking at it at the time, and not making it about, but if I'd have done that, I know the ref would have said, well, it's a red card. So I get the whole thing of ruining the game. I understand that, but the ref's not there to decide whether it's a good game or not. The ref's there to make the decision on a one-off basis on what he sees, and to me, I think he got it wrong, Neil Doyle.
Yeah, and obviously Shamrock Rovers in the next round, the semi-final, of course, playing, as I mentioned earlier, Kerry. This is their third season in the league. Obviously, as a first division club, they're the sole representative at this stage of the competition now, but it's the circumstances, obviously, and how they came back against Sligo Rovers. They were 3-0 down. I was doing the match tracker at the time. I didn't write them off completely. I always leave myself a little bit of room for error. Now, not the FAI Twitter account, on the other hand, and I will come back to it, had a slightly different view, which obviously Kerry didn't miss at that point. But let's first listen to Colin Healy after a side to come from 3-0 down to win 4-3 after extra time. He was chatting to Adrian Eames.
Colin, 3-0 down, you must have thought this isn't going to happen. What a turnaround. It has to go down as one of the great FAI Cup comebacks.
Yeah. I suppose when you're 3-0 down, it's always going to be difficult. It is, but listen, the lads responded very, very well. To come back from 3-0 down it just shows, the strength of the squad, the character, and it was we needed a lot of things to go right for us, and they did.
Did you believe at 3-0 down after an hour or so that it was possible for your team to come back and bring it to extra time?
I'd always believe in my players. Do you get me? Like, obviously it's a big task when you're 3-0 down, but I always believe in my players, and when we got the first one, I'm thinking, okay, let's get the second one, and then from on there. But we looked a fitter side. We looked like the side that was going to go and win it, and our boys never gave up, and they got better and better, and it's a credit to them, absolutely credit to them.
Yeah, definitely credit to them, especially Owen Elding had scored a hat-trick. The third one obviously deflected in from an angle at that point. But Graham, I suppose the circumstances from the Kerry point of view, when a first division team looks down and out 3-0 down, obviously they get their first goal quite quickly after conceding the third, but it is a remarkable result regardless of what happens in the semi-final now.
Oh, unbelievable result. Couldn't believe it. We were obviously getting the feed in and getting the scores, and 2-0, you thought, right, Sligo aren't letting this go. 3-0 it goes to you thinking, right, that's it, done. 25 minutes to go. You start it's 3-1. Obviously it's 3-2, and then you think, right, something's happening here. And then you get the equaliser and put it into extra time. But from a Kerry point of view, it's an unbelievable achievement to get to a semi-final of the FAI Cup in such a short space of time for when your club came into existence. From a Sligo point of view, it's absolutely disastrous. It's as bad a outcome that you could have wished for. If you had said to me that Sligo were going to go to Kerry and lose 1-0 and be knocked out of the cup, I would have went, okay, fair enough. It's the manner of it. We touched on it with the Irish defeat to Armenia. It's the manner of it. It's not just the fact that they've lost. It's how they've lost from such a winning, unassailable position to go and lose 4-3. I think it's disastrous for Sligo, and it's tough for them. They need to regroup, and they need to level points with Galway. They need to regroup and really make sure that they kick on, because that's a real body blow. But all the credit has to go to Kerry for just that resilience they showed just to stay in the game and in the fight. And it's telling that Colin Healy thinks they were the fitter team and they're a part-time team going up against the full-time team. But when you have that momentum, that's what it feels like. It feels like you can keep running and keep going, and that's what they done. And look, full credit to them. Unbelievable performance, especially in the last half an hour of the game and extra time. And look, the reward is an away trip to Shamrock Rovers, which they probably wouldn't be overly happy about. But again, you just have to go in and put a performance and see where it takes them.
Yeah, and obviously the standout players for them on the day, Cian Brosnan, who scored twice, Daniel Okwute, who scored the winner in extra time, but before that, assist for the equaliser, and then won the penalty for their second goal, and they were the ones to the fore in that game. But of course, as we said, they're going to Towell Stadium in the semi-final, probably the toughest trip they could have had. Well, it is the toughest trip, I suppose, in the league, Richie, but this, at least for them, is the freest of free hits. They can just throw a punch at it and see what happens.
Yeah, look, first and foremost, Kerry have done absolutely incredible to get where they are. But I'm not surprised either, Raf. Colin Healy, not just a good manager, but he's a good man as well. He obviously had a tough time over the last couple of years. He has. So to see him and his team get to where they are now, it's absolutely brilliant to see. On the flip side, Sligo Rovers, like, I've been praising them since they came back from the mid-season break. I think Sligo have been looking up. They have, and they've been putting in some really good performances. But that was the Sligo before the mid-season break. Just defensively so poor. Couldn't believe what I was watching. To give away the first goal in the manner they did is embarrassing. And that gives, as Colin said in his interview there, once they get one back, you start to get a little sniff of it and a little bit of nerves. There's a couple of mishit passes. Then they give away a sloppy penalty. Couldn't believe what I was watching. For a Premier Division team to go 3-0 up and then lose 4-3, it's embarrassing, it is, honestly. And it could be damaging in the league. They really need to put this behind them, because I genuinely think that they have a realistic chance of getting out of the relegation playoff, because, as I said, the form that they were in compared to Galway, you would fancy them. But that's very damaging. That can be a very, very damaging defeat. If I had to be in the other way around, where Kerry is 3-0 up, and you think, all right, the Premier Division just turned it on a little bit, but it's the opposite way. And Colin Healy was right. They did look the fitter team. They looked a stronger team. Daniel Okwute was just all over the place the whole game. I couldn't believe the pressure he was putting the Sligo defence on. He was absolutely brilliant, and he was well deserved to get the winning goal as well. So it's great to see someone who put so much effort into a game and they get that just rewards at the end of it.
Yeah, and then as I mentioned earlier, and I wasn't come back to it, the at FA Ireland account, which had tweeted at the point, I think, where it had just gone 3-0, Sligo Rovers are heading into the next round, ! Owen Elding's cross is deflected into the Kerry net. Now, like, again, you kind of understand it. That's what feels like it's realistic at that point. But then, of course, Kerry Football Club at Kerry FC on Twitter come back with quote tweeting it with Sligo are heading where, and then a smiley face emoji. So, yeah, it's Kerry that are heading to the final. But on the flip side, I suppose, we saw Sligo Rovers getting caught out. Cork City against the first division side in Finn Harps, Richie, they completely avoided that, and it kind of follows the recent trend that they've been on, especially with another clean sheet as well.
Yeah, well, we done the preview last week, didn't we, Raf? And I thought, I said it'll be a comfortable victory for Cork, and I said it'll be a comfortable victory for Sligo. That's what I thought, and it was looking like that up until Sligo absolutely disintegrated. But yeah, Cork, they've looked a lot better. It's like they kind of know they're going down. They probably don't have that pressure on them from the league point of view. The fans probably know they're going to go down as well. So it's like that. The lads are probably actually enjoying the football now, and you can see it. They're scoring goals freely. They're not conceding goals. So it's like a little bit of a weight has been lifted off their shoulders. Jernash, I'm sure he'll be delighted, because you could see when he first went in the problems that he had, and I was kind of thinking, I feel sorry for him. I genuinely did. He had a big turnover of players, even in the transfer window, a lot of players left. And I was thinking, it's just not working out the way I'm sure he had planned. He had a lot of loan players in there that probably weren't doing the business for him, that had their eyes looking elsewhere. So to see them where they are now is absolutely fantastic. And they have a realistic chance of getting to the final now. As we said, Kerry's reward was getting Shamrock Rovers in Towell Stadium in the semi-final, but they have St. Pat's at home. They'll fancy themselves in that. As much as the form that Pats are in is really good, but Cork will be fancying themselves down there, especially in Turner's Cross. I've played in some big games down there, and the atmosphere can be absolutely electric. It can. So I'm sure Jernash and the players will want Turner's Cross rocking for the semi-final.
Yeah, and one thing that's helping them, Graham, I suppose, from a Cork City point of view, Evan McLaughlin's recent form, not just obviously in the cup game where he scores twice, but in the league as well. He's one of those players that has stepped up in the recent weeks.
Yeah, he scored a cracker against Waterford. Deflected cross, came back out to me, hit it on the volley first time. He actually ended up playing off the front in that game because Murray went off injured, and he was a real goal threat. And then obviously he goes up to Finn Harps and scores 2 as well. His first one's a really good finish. Second one, he gets a second bite at it and chops on it and sticks it away as well. So, but Maguire's been fit for them as well. He's had a run of games, and you could see his quality. Just Finn Harps weren't able to deal with it. It'd be interesting going to Turner's Cross. I think there's been a bit of separation at Cork in terms of the fans, and this is a night that it could all come together for them. A semi-final at Turner's Cross, a chance to go to the Aviva. I believe it probably, I think Cork will get right behind this and make sure that you try and get the team over the line. We done a game, Cork versus Pats down there. It wasn't great. There wasn't much between them. Pats were really poor on the night, I thought, as a team that you would have thought were title challengers. So that's not a given, that one. I agree with Richie. I think if Cork can find something, they will cause Pats trouble. Pats, it's their chance to put silverware on the board, because the first 6 months, the first 4 months, 5 months of the season were really poor from a Pats point of view, considering how well they finished last year's season. Like, if you're basing it off that, and everybody talking about Pats being title contenders, I didn't think their first 4 months in the league were great by any shakes, but they found a bit of form. They were ruthless in this game because they probably weren't that great in the first half. But Mason Media offers them so much up top. He's such a handful. His confidence is through the roof, and confidence is massive for any player. And it's easy to say, but for strikers it's big. It is, but that self-assuredness he has now, that he knows what he's worth, he knows he's going away, and he's just putting in performances here for St. Pat's. His touch to get Bolden sent off was brilliant.
Oh, brilliant, yeah.
And then Forrester steps up and sticks the free kick away. I know the lads were questioning the goalkeeper. I'd be similar myself. I just think he just put all his weight on his left foot and couldn't get back across. Barry Murphy might come on and tell us different, but I just think Brendan Clark just looked a bit tired, where he was set. He was probably trying to second guess that Forrester was going to try and be clever and go keeper's side. Never really looked, and then again, but that puts them through to a semi-final, and it's kind of be the catalyst for Stephen Kenny to get Pats actually to become title contenders next year. Can they get a bit of silverware? But they've won the cup before and haven't really kicked on. But it's really important that they get to the final, and they have to go through Cork to do it.
Yeah, let's listen to Stephen Kenny. Obviously, Tony O'Donoghue spoke to him, but also John Caulfield. The Caulfield interview you'll find on the RT Sport Twitter channel and also on the RT Sport Facebook as well. But here is Stephen Kenny, where he gave a lot of credit to Galway and their performance in yesterday's quarter-final.
Now, listen, huge credit to Galway, really, from what they've been through over the last few weeks. Very, very tough period for the players and staff. So they deserve all the credit, really. They put in a tremendous performance. And we pushed this to the pin of our collar. We thought we won it when Jake got that goal, and then obviously they scored in the 91st minute, and then once it goes to extra time, it's anyone's. And thankfully we managed to score the 2 goals and win 3-1. And my players were brilliant, but Galway deserves so much credit for what the performance they've left out there tonight. Considering everything they've gone through, they're a credit to themselves.
So that's Stephen Kenny there after his side got through to the semi-final. Obviously giving a lot of credit to Galway United and the build-up to the game, of course, following the passing of Ollie Horgan a couple of weeks ago. There were a lot of tributes to him. Also, there's a lovely tribute on the RT programme yesterday as well. You can check that out on the social media channels as well. Just I suppose looking back at Ollie Horgan's contribution to the league, but obviously Stephen Kenny, Richie, your former manager there, giving credit to Galway. Galway have been in poor form in terms of their results in recent times, but there's a lot they can take from that performance in terms of trying to stay away from the bottom two.
Yeah, look, Galway were brilliant in the game, because going to Richmond against the St. Pat's team that are full of confidence, it's not an easy task. They probably should have took the lead in the game as well. Jimmy Cowan had an unbelievable chance he did for them to go 1-0 up. And when you get chances like that in Richmond against St. Pat's, who are going to dominate play and dominate the ball, you need to take them chances, because it would have allowed Galway then to sit in their low block and be really comfortable, because they are really comfortable when they're in that position there. We spoke about how damaging the defeat can be to Sligo after getting beat 4-3 off Kerry. I think this can be, I know they still lost the game, but I think it's the manner in which they lost the game. Galway put in a really good performance. I think John Caulfield would be saying, look, if we put in performances similar to that over the next couple of weeks, I think they'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, and there's a Friday Monday coming in the league actually this coming weekend. But there was one game last Friday which is a bit of a barnstormer, at least the second half. The first half was a bit quieter, but then it sort of exploded into life afterwards with Derry City winning 4-3 at Bohemians. And that was the battle for second and third. Derry are now up to second, and Bohs slipped down to third. Probably doesn't do much for either side in terms of title ambitions, because Shamrock Rovers are so far ahead, but it is important for Derry in terms of the chase and pack behind, as we previewed the previous week. But I suppose, Graham, looking at it, Brian Maher had an unbelievable game. Some of the saves he made were brilliant throughout the 90 minutes to obviously still conceded 3 goals, but to actually get the 3 points for Derry, it was great. But when you look at what Derry have coming up now in terms of the European race, they've got tough games: Shells at home, Drogheda away, Sligo at home before the next international break. That was a crucial win.
Yeah, it was, to go away to Bohemians and win. The other player sent off then, I think, around the 75th minute as well, Boyce, for the second yellow. And then, but that's when Maher stepped up and made the big saves when they were under the cosh. There was a couple of headers that he got to, and saves that you think he should make, but you have to make them. And when you're under that pressure and they're throwing balls into the box and they're pinging balls around, and you have to stay concentrated. And there's a thing that keepers love all that. They love being the hero at that moment, and they'll make a save, and everybody talks about it, and it's there, as we always say, it's their time to shine, So, but yeah, Bohs, the lads have just signed new contracts at Bohs. They're going in with the project. They're happy with Rennie now. It's all looking good, but for some reason they just struggle to beat Derry, and they just can't have her over them. But as Stephen Bradley said on Friday night, they struggled to beat Bohs, and it's just that thing. They haven't struggled to beat anyone else, but they struggled to beat Bohs. And now Douglas James Taylor has come in, scored a couple of goals, one's a penalty. Duffy's still such a goal threat, and they've released O'Reilly as well. I think not sure if he was playing right wing back or midfield in this game, but he goes and scores 2 goals as well. So, and Depot's been good for them. He's given them a presence up top. But again, where did Derry go? You have to go into Europe to get the European money. And then, do I ever see them mounting a serious title challenge? I don't know. I think if I was picking now the two that who I think is going to come and be a serious title challenger out of the two teams. I think Bohemians have youth and energy on their side, and they're building something that I think can ultimately challenge further down the road. Do I see Derry doing that? I'm not sure. But massive win for them. To score 4 goals away from home, you should win the game, and ultimately they did.
Yeah, and then Bowes on the other side, Richie. There is the derby against Rovers coming on the 26th of September away from home, obviously. And then before that, they have Waterford at home this Friday. And that is going to be a big one in terms of just getting that momentum back before the 2 tough games, Rovers and then Pats, before the next October window.
Yeah, look, they have some difficult fixtures coming up. It looked like they were cruising at one point. Not for the league, obviously, but for them European spaces. But they've only won 1 in their last 7 games, Raf. That's a big concern. Is if you continue that form on, you won't make any European spots, because you see how close it is in the league. You see Shells, Pats, they have a couple of games in hand over them. The form that both of them teams are in as well, you'd probably fancy them to win their games in hand. So I know it's probably a positive thing at Bohemians at the moment, considering where they were last season. I still think they're miles off any sort of a title challenge. Genuinely do. Like, I don't even think Shamrock Rovers have reached top gear yet. I genuinely mean that. I think for the other teams, from my point of view, I think you're probably looking at a St. Pat's if they next season like that. If the FAI Cup, if they get to the final, if they win it, that can be a real catalyst for them to then go and put a title challenge. You see, that's what happened to Shamrock Rovers, isn't it? 2019, they went and won the cup. And sometimes when you win silverware, it gives you that belief, like, yeah, look, we can go and we can compete at this level, and we can go and win a league or win a cup. So, but when I look at Bohemians, I don't see many winners in their team and in their squads. Like, not many of their lads have been there and done it, gone and won a cup or gone and won a league. So I'll be a bit fearful for them. But yeah, look, they most definitely need to get back to winning ways, because, as I said, the teams that are in and around them, they have a couple of games in hand and they're in better form than them. So they're most definitely going to have to get back to winning ways as soon as possible.
Yeah, before we go very quickly, we're just going to touch on the Champions League, because we have live coverage. It's the league phase is starting up now for this season. Liverpool versus Atletico Madrid is live on RTÉ2 and the RTÉ Player on Wednesday from 7:30, and then Newcastle v Barcelona is live on RTÉ2 and the RTÉ Player the following day on Thursday, also from 7:30. So 2 really good games. The second one, of course, for those who are old enough and were around in 1997, might remember Tino Asprilla against Barcelona. But anyway, younger viewers, go Google that. Don't Google all of Tino Asprilla's escapades off the pitch, maybe, but certainly Google what he did on the pitch. But anyway, Graham, in terms of Liverpool, they're 4 from 4 in the league at this point, in the Premier League. Although looking at some of their performances, a lot of little teething problems at this point, but the fact they're still winning games can be taken as a positive. I suppose at the same time, there are little things to iron out as well.
Yeah, I watched a good bit of the game yesterday. I didn't think they were great, but they were up against a team that basically set in, allowed them to have the ball, and they tried to break them down. Eventually, they did break them down, so you can say, well, it worked, but were they their free-flowing best? No. They have Isaac to come in, which is going to make people think, will he make that much of a difference? I think he does. I think you've the Premiership second top goal scorer, as well as the Premiership's top goal scorer last year, both in the teams, and can they cover both? And then you throw in that the TK can move, and Gakpo, and it frees up them. And your front three can become like a front. You can interchange them and get them on and freshen them up. So the fact that they are still winning, we're out hitting top gear, is a good sign. Do they need to get a bit more free-flowing and a little bit more aggressive in their attacking play? Yeah, they do. But they still have an intent, like they're trying to win every game. And that ultimately is what gets them over the line, is because they're pushing right to the very end. And to me, that's a sign of a good team, that they're always trying to win football matches.
Yeah, and Atletico Madrid not in the best of form, at least to start the season, although they did get their first win in the Liga season, 2-0 at home against what is always a tricky Villarreal side. And then obviously the stat for Liverpool that was mentioned, the Athletic per Opta, they have now set a record for the most winners scored in the last 10 minutes a game. So that's 4 games in a row. So that's a record at this point. But Richie, I suppose finally on Newcastle, Graham mentioned Isaac there, who has gone out the building, which probably, it just means everyone can sort of move on. But then we saw the number 9, Nick Voltemada, scoring what was a brilliant header against Wolves on Saturday, just the way he peeled off the back post and sort of directed it. So it's a good start for him. They love their number 9s, although I don't think he's wearing the number 9 jersey, but that doesn't really matter at this stage. But they love their number 9s in Newcastle. So it's a good start for them. Obviously, Barcelona are going to be as tough as you can get at this stage.
Yeah, and they only won 6-0 at the weekend.
Only.
So I'm sure they won't be full of confidence. Now, look, I love watching Newcastle play. I love Eddie Howe. I love how he sets his teams up. I love how they play football. I think they're one of the best teams to watch. Look, they're coming up against a Barcelona team who are full of confidence, unbelievable world-class players. That's going to be an unbelievable game to watch. To watch how Eddie Howe sets up his teams. You can even see Newcastle when they played against Liverpool. I thought they were the better team up to the 7-0. I thought Newcastle were absolutely brilliant. They have pace, power. Then they have the likes of Tonali, Guimaraes, Jolinton in the midfield who can cover the ground, create chances. They can kind of do it all. So it's going to be an absolute cracker. I think that's the games to watch this round. I think Newcastle against Barcelona is going to be an absolute cracker.
Yeah, so just a reminder, Liverpool against Atletico Madrid, live on RTÉ2 and the RTÉ Player on Wednesday, and then Newcastle against Barcelona the following day, same channels. But Graham and Richie, you've been great with your time today, so thanks very much, and we'll chat soon.
Cheers, Raf.
All right, delighted now to be joined by Shelbourne's Rachel Graham. Rachel, how are you?
Doing well, Raf.
Yeah, so last week, obviously, we spoke a lot about Athlone Town and Colin Fortune in terms of his decision to leave the club at that stage. Now, a couple of hours after we finished recording, then he actually spoke to the Westmeath Independent to just clarify as to why he made that decision so abruptly, especially when they've been going so well. And what he did tell the newspaper, who also spoke to the club CEO, Stephen Gray, it was that what Fortune said, his decision sort of stemmed from uncertainty around his and some of the players' long-term situations as a club beyond the season, and then disagreements around the management of the first team as well, sort of in that sense. But like John O'Sullivan obviously has come in and taken temporary charge, as he did for last Wednesday's first leg against Glasgow City in the Women's Europa Cup first leg, which we had previewed. Now, ultimately, their second leg is going to be not tomorrow, on Wednesday evening, but they're going in trailing 3-0. And, that first leg, as you said, they had a real chance in this. And from the first 14 minutes before Glasgow City got their first goal, Athlone were really holding their own at that point.
Yeah, they were. And that's kind of what we spoke about. It's not that these players, playing in this league are like a million miles better than us, but in terms of their setup and the professional side of it, that's where we kind of differ. That's probably what we've seen within the game then. It was just the different levels of especially the second half we've seen it. It's just their speed of play, their fitness levels, and when they get chances they can take them. And that's just comes down from, being in a professional setup, training pretty much every day, and to just have that little level above. And look, it's, in fairness to Athlone, it's a really hard thing to just step up and be able to compete against them. So it's not something you can just, I'll just try my best and I'll be able to, you can only do so much. That's probably what we've seen. It was the difference of that kind of level. And I think even if you've seen the winger, Sophia Mata, who's just, really kind of terrorised them all night, and it was just basically her speed, and she just assisted the 3 goals, got down that right or left wing and just put the ball in. They were nearly 3 identical goals almost. So that's, at different levels, it's really hard to compete against someone who's just on a different level of speed, fitness, and gets harder and harder as the game goes on. But look, I think Athlone, they've done their best. It's not a case of, they just didn't show up or didn't play well on the night. It was just, that difference of level. And look, 3-0, it's not, it's not impossible to come back from, but I just think given, the level of Glasgow that they're at and being able to score 3 against them, but also being able to keep them out, I just think might be too much of an ask for them going into the second leg.
Yeah, and the one thing as well, as I mentioned, the good start. Obviously, Glasgow City took control, as you said, as the game wore on, dominated the ball. But before that, their Athlone are coming in having, their manager having, made a decision to step away from his role, and there wasn't really any sign that they were impacted by that in the first few minutes. So obviously, they're kind of a resilient enough bunch, and of course, the caretaker comes in as well to manage that as well.
Yeah, and look, that's what we said, once players kind of, the whistle goes and go on to the 11 that steps on, that all kind of goes out of your mind. Who's standing on the sideline, it's different. So, and like we said, you never know. Some players could be happy to see him go. You just never ever know what happens behind the scenes of the club. So look, it didn't seem to affect him. Obviously, he didn't get a win, but I don't think that was anything to do with John O'Sullivan or his decisions within the game. And look, John was involved in the game before. He was at DLR, and so he knows, he's been involved in the women's game before. He was already at the club, so might already have had relationships with the players. They probably crossed paths before, so it's not a completely new face for them. But look, yeah, I think like we were saying, players can be resilient and they can just basically get on with things like this.
Yeah, and in terms of managing the second leg, as you said, 3-0, it's a big gap to try and overcome, but it's not necessarily insurmountable now. I don't think many people will be giving them a chance to do it. How do you feel they'll manage that game, especially with some huge fixtures to come against yourselves, for example, and then also a cup final, in terms of managing minutes, and maybe how much do they throw at it maybe in the first half, or if it's still 3-0 or whatever the score is at halftime, do they sort of not necessarily give it up, but you kind of, I suppose, you move your focus on to something else?
Yeah, look, I think they'll give it their best go. They'll put out the strongest 11 that they can, I think. And look, even probably Glasgow, they're probably looking at 3-0 thinking, look, if it had been 4-0, I think they would have made a few changes and maybe weakened the team a bit. But I think at 3-0, they're probably not going to take any chances. So the 11 that they start, I'm pretty sure is going to be, as strong as it was in the home leg. So I think Athlone should try and match it. And look, I think if you're at Athlone, look, 3-0 is a huge ask, but I just think take this game on its own, just try, do better in this 90 minutes, try and get a result in this 90 minutes. And look, it's at home in front of a home crowd, and potentially it's going to be their last game in Europe. So I think they'll give it their all, and then probably, look, if it's come half time or come 60 minutes and, you can see that you're not going to win the game, maybe you start bringing on younger players, give them that experience, and like you said, start managing minutes. And so obviously in a cup final now as well, and in the front runner seat for the league. So look, that's their priority at the moment. This was probably the end of the road in their European journey anyway. So look, I think they'll give it their best. They'll start as strong as they can, and then they'll probably manage the game as it goes on.
Yeah, and obviously that second leg, as I said, on Wednesday evening, trailing 3-0. So that's the first qualifying round of the Women's Europa Cup. Now, in between Wednesday's game and last Wednesday's game, of course, there's a cup semi-final yesterday against Shamrock Rovers, and this could have been a real banana skin given they'd only played Shamrock Rovers a week before, and that means Shamrock Rovers has a bit of time to sort of adapt to them, I suppose. And then Athlone have been playing midweek as well, which could take something out of them. Then all the upheaval that's around that we've kind of talked about as well. But again, they managed this really well.
Yeah, look, that's in fairness to Athlone. They've done it brilliantly all year. Any challenge that they've been up against, they've faced it. And look, they've dropped points, but in games they haven't lost. Even if they're not winning them, they've just managed to draw the game. And that's where we've kind of slipped up. So that's why they're top of the table. And like I said, this week was a tough week for them. Travelled away, played a really tough game, travelled back, and had to then go and play in a cup semi-final where Rovers are just going to throw everything at it. It's their whole season to find on this cup final to make it to a cup final. So it was a really tough ask for them. But look, I think even in the game, they were the better team. They were fully deserving of the win. And I think, look, we probably thought maybe Rovers catching them at a bad time, their manager leaving and having to travel. But in fairness to Athlone, they've been very professional about how they've gone about this season, and all the games they've approached, they've performed in all their games. So I think, look, they're just probably a level above Rovers at the moment, and I think that showed then on Sunday.
Yeah, so that's the fourth cup final in a row that they'll be playing in as well, and they will be the big favourites as well, Kelly Brady and Madison Gibson as well, just to give the scorers there a goal in each half for Athlone in that semi-final. And they'll be facing Bows, who beat Treaty United 2-0, Leah Glennon and Katie Lovely scoring 2 goals within the space of 10 minutes in that first half. But the first 20 minutes were key. That's Leah Glennon scores on 20 minutes, but before that it could have really gone either way because Treaty were well in it.
Yeah, and that's probably like a real kind of feel of a cup game. It's both teams, really going for it. It's all or nothing kind of thing. So that's the way they usually pan out. But I think in the overall game, I think Bows were, really deserving of the win. They were the better team. And even in the second half, Treaty put a bit more pressure on them, but Bows dealt with everything pretty much. So I think they were really deserving of the win. And look, it's great for them now. Another cup final to look forward to, their first ever time in the FEI Cup final, which, look, I know they played in the All-Ireland Cup, but it's, a much lower scale to what this will be. And even, having losing that cup final, it might even, stand to them where players now probably played in their first cup final and they now know what it feels like to lose a cup final. And, it's really tough. It's a tough one to take. So I think this would be a much bigger scale. It's that kind of feeling of I don't want to feel that way again, and losing this cup final is probably going to be even harder again to lose than an All Ireland Cup. So I think, for them, it's obviously exciting. They're going to be an underdog. There's not a lot of pressure on them, so they can just really enjoy the occasion, enjoy the day. And I was looking through their squad, and I think they only have 3 players who've played in the final before, and Hannah Healy would have played for Shelbourne, and look, I think she was only 15, 16 at the time, so really young. Fiona Donnelly played in one for Shelbourne. She again would have been really young, and Alana McAvoy played for Piamount in one. So I think they're the only 3. I know Kate McCarran would have been in a squad for Shells but didn't play, and I'm not sure about Rachel Kelly, but look, they don't have a whole lot of experience within this cup final day. So look, it's exciting for them. They've deserving to be there, and look, I think obviously if you're looking at the table, you're going to favour Athlone and the run that they're on. And but I think cup final and Bows, they've a lot of young, good, energetic players, and they'll definitely be giving Athlone a tough game.
Yeah, and I suppose credit goes to the manager as well. I heard him speaking to TG Cahir afterwards as well, Albin Husa, the work he's done there this season to get them to 2 cup finals, and obviously maybe less consistent in the league, but they look, well, obviously, as you said, lots of good young players there, and there's a platform to build on.
Yeah, look, and he was previously involved with Treaty before that, so he's kind of been around the league, a couple of years now. And look, I think that's probably the characteristic of young players and having a really young team where they're not going to be consistent in a league where they're winning every week. But if they're looking at their season and making their season a success, it's getting to cup finals and performing in cups, and that's exactly what they've done. And look, I think Athlone, you're obviously favourites, probably, obviously a much more experienced team, but I don't think they'd be overly confident playing against Bows. Their last game was 2-2, and they found themselves 2-0 down against Bows as well. So I think when you're playing like such a young team with nothing to lose, it can be really tough as well.
Yeah, and then in terms of your own league ambitions there, so you beat DLR Waves 4-0 at the weekend. So Even Clancy, Alex Kavanagh, Mackenzie Anthony, Gabby Del Pico with all the goals across that game. But again, you were coming off the back of the defeat to Galway. So, but again, the first goal, I suppose, does come in the 38th minute. Was it just a thing of patience and then just trying to break them down and then sort of take it from there?
Yeah, I think so. And look, no game is easy to play. Obviously, you look at 4-0 and we won it easy in the end, but it's still, I think, just about getting that first goal, and you kind of think, look, if we get 1, you get 2, and you get 3. So yeah, like you said, it's just about keeping patient, not doing anything silly, just playing the game as best we can. And the goal obviously comes from Avian. It's a good teamwork goal, and Avian gets the force, and that's kind of the weight off your shoulders. Then you can play with a bit more freedom. So look, we're just doing our best now to keep as much pressure on Athlone as we can. We've obviously slipped up last week where it's out of our hands now, so we're hoping that Athlone slip up in the league, but we just need to make sure that we're right there in it if they do happen to slip up.
Yeah, because you play each other in what will be a huge game as well, 27th of September. So any margin that you can pull the gap down to will obviously stand to you as well. But yeah, and obviously you've got Treaty this Saturday as well. In terms of mentality, do you prefer being the hunter or the hunted, or what players generally prefer? Because there is a pressure on either side of those sides of the coin.
Yeah, and look, that's kind of what we spoke about, at Lowner in the driving seat, but you just don't know what pressure does the players. You don't know how to perform. But look, I'd obviously much rather be in their position where you're,
The
like, say,
points on the
4
board,
points.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if they win their game in hand, of course, it's where you want to be. But look, we'll do our best to make it as hard as possible for them. But again, it's just not looking past Treaty the weekend. We can't afford to slip up in any other game. So, we don't play Athlone the week later, but we're not even kind of thinking about that now. It's just about playing Treaty now and keeping ourselves as close as possible to Athlone.
Yeah, and then the other game in the league at the weekend, Galway United winning 2-1 at Peamount United. So that's two wins in a row for Galway now, and then Peamount's run coming to an end. On Galway first, I suppose Keola Bergen got both goals. First one from a penalty, but the second one was just really, really well taken. It was just a classy finish, but also just even the little bit of skill she did before turning and pulling the ball in.
Yeah, and look, it probably wasn't the greatest game overall in terms of quality, but the 2 goals that Piamount Eleanor Ron Dahl got was a good goal as well, and then Keola Bergen with that. It's just it kind of one touch takes out 2 defenders. It's a really clever touch and turn all in one, and then it's a great finish. So look, Keola's a good young player in the league. She's previously with Wexford, she's with Galway now, so she's kind of one of the players up and coming who's proven she's going to be a good player in this league. Whether we see her go abroad or not, I don't know, but yeah, I think it was a really good, clever kind of touch, turn, and then her finish was excellent as well.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the equation, so Peamount, they nearly pulled out a draw towards the end of that game as well, but they had been on a really good run, 4 wins in a row. Obviously, a little bit of a setback now, and where they are in the table, it is sort of that kind of no man's land position. Not no threat in terms of being, well, obviously there's no relegation in the league, obviously, but there's they're far away from that kind of bottom clutch, and then they're kind of mired in mid-table in a certain sense across the season.
Yeah, and it's always kind of strange to speak about Peamount in that way because they've always been a team that's challenged and look, they've really started to drift off in the last couple of years. I mean, they won the league and then they finished sixth and now they're currently eighth, and that's 3 years in a row that's been their finishing. So like it's a really strange one, and I don't know if it's a case of maybe they're feeling the effects now of they're essentially a grassroots club, they're not a League of Ireland club, and maybe they're kind of seeing other teams starting to drift away with maybe better facilities, bigger budgets. So I don't know if it's something maybe look, it's obviously hard to let go. Peamount's been such a big club, and we had the same when we were Raheny, we were essentially a grassroots club and just couldn't sustain the demands of a League of Ireland club. So they potentially fall into that same trap as well. So whether it's the case where they look at merging with say like a St. Pat's or something like that, I don't know. But I think for them, to go from winning to finishing sixth and now they're currently eighth and with not a whole lot of games left where they're probably going to finish around there. It's a big drop down in 3 years.
Yeah, and I suppose finally as well, there's a couple of transfers out of the league, and this is probably good for the players in a certain sense where they go and make a step up in their career, but also will hit the league. So this is Scarlett Heron leaving Shamrock Rovers for Hibs, and also Jess Fitzpatrick leaving Peamount for the same club in Scotland as well. So it depends which way you look at it from the players' point of view, but also from the league and the clubs.
Yeah, and look, it's always brilliant when you see a player going to play professionally. I'm sure it's been a dream of theirs when they were a young girl growing up playing. So yeah, I always kind of wish them well, and it's brilliant to see. But the flip side is we're losing quality every year in our league, and teams start to get diluted and maybe less competitive in league. So it's hard to see, and when they do go over them, they're obviously playing professional, but they're not making thousands and thousands a week where they can retire and live the rest of their lives off what they made. But I think it'd be ideally we could get to a stage where we're professional here and players can have their job being a professional player here and they don't have to go away. So and keep our league as strong as possible. But look, I think that's probably a good few years off. Being realistic, I don't know how close we are to that, but like if you look at all the other players who've gone away, even Erin McLaughlin, Emily Whelan, we've seen play for Glasgow against that loan. So we've lost a lot of players that would have made our league brilliantly. But look, obviously the flip side is you can't ever kind of hold someone here and not let them live out their dream. So it's a hard balance. But I think if we ever can get to a stage where we're professional and we can offer professional contracts to players and have it be their full-time job, we'll see the league get stronger and stronger.
Yeah, and also in terms of the development of the women's game here, the FAI have posted up the job spec and application page for the head of women's and girls football, which was Hannah Dingley's role, and prior to that, Eileen Gleeson. So applications close on Friday week, the 26th, and the minimum requirement is a UEFA B license, albeit they do note also the preference will be either minimum a UEFA A license or a pro license. So that brings us to a close for today. We'll be back next Tuesday as there's a full round of LOI action on the Monday. So we'll see you then. And Rachel, best of luck, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Raf. See you soon.